Hi, my name is Jordania Rodriguez, and I am the host for today on our Inspire Her Podcast. So today I have the pleasure and honor to introduce Vix Reitano, who is President and CEO of Agency 6B.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So my question, Vix, the first thing that I would like to say is thank you for being here with us today. And I just want you to talk about yourself. What is it that you do? What does Agency 6B means to you? How do you start it and so forth?
Oh, this is the best story ever. Like an epic novel, if you will. So I'm the founder and CEO of Agency 6B, an award-winning advertising agency based in Jersey City. We do everything from paid ads everywhere, billboards, TV, digital, to the middle of the funnel, which is how you nurture and convince people to buy from you, let's call it, convert them to paying clients who refer. And then we handle bottom of the funnel where we help people do referral programs and follow up and maintain their SEO and all the things that you think about when you think about your branding, marketing, and advertising. That's what we handle. We are a 4A's advertising agency, which means that we follow a strict code of ethics, and it's very important to me. Prior to starting the company, I was a TV producer, a journalist, and then I started the company at 27, which is almost 7 years ago. Company has had a lot of evolution, as have I, and it's an exciting time.
Awesome. So I would love for you to share with our audience, how do you start it? How the Agency 6B was born.
Yeah, so Agency 6B was born out of a desire to disrupt, right? I had worked at an ad agency. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I got recruited and I started working at an ad agency, and it was very much like the Don Draper, Mad Men, drinking at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and just inappropriate behavior left, right, and sideways. So I said that I wanted something different and I wanted to serve clients in a better way. So it was actually Memorial Day, 2015. And I was going to my little brother's college graduation and I took on my first side hustle client. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll do this, right? Within 6 weeks, I had matched my 6-figure salary and said, screw it. I'm going to jump, quit it, and see what happens. 6 months later, I hired my first employee. And really, from there, it kind of just kept going. We added in a production company. We have a studio now within Jersey City because I shoot, edit, and produce. And I only hire creatives who are multi-passionate like me, people who were told that they couldn't because they had so many passions. And one of the things that really started the company off was my own network. So I'd always had a good personal brand, and I leveraged that really up until this year. We haven't done any advertising until 2022, which is very exciting. And now we're finally, turning our genius on ourselves and figuring out what it means for us to do advertising and for us to get cold traffic as opposed to people who know me as Victoria with the Fix, aka Vix.
Vix, so you mentioned before, those people like you that probably someone tell them you cannot do it. And then that is one of your goals to kind of help them how to do it. Tell us about your roadblocks. How do you overcome those? How do you make those roadblocks became your strength in the area or in the industry that you are in?
That's like the best question because I think a lot of people see you on social media, which is all BS. And then nobody puts their failures on social ever, right? Nobody puts like their hard stuff, or they put their hard stuff and then it's like, this is so hard and it's overly dramatic, right? So it's not even believable. So the roadblocks, I face them. Everybody faces them. People look at you on this side, the side where you're having a great day, and they forget that you too are still stressed and worried. And, being an entrepreneur means trusting yourself above all else. And it means betting on yourself even when other people won't, right? So I've had a lot of people tell me like right before COVID, it was like, oh, give it up. I was like, oh, just my life's work. Fine, sure, cool. I'll just give it up. Like it's a sandwich that I didn't want anymore. But for me, the most important thing when it comes to dealing with my roadblocks, and then I'll tell you what they are, is a routine. So I am a very structured person, and women, in my experience and my opinion, tend to compromise on their routine in order to help other people, right? I only meet with clients Tuesdays and Thursdays. Not everybody likes that. Okay, fine. But it works for us. My team works a 4-day work week because I know that's sustainable. That's our policies. So boundaries is the biggest roadblock and the biggest challenge within my business. Boundaries with myself, holding to what I say, and then also boundaries with, our clients, with my team, with my colleagues. And one of the biggest boundaries that I often face is, am I enough? Am I smart enough, strategic enough, capable enough, to do the work that I want to do? And I think that is a roadblock that everyone is comfortable with, right? Because you always walk into a room and you never know what you're going to expect. And a lot of times I used to walk in the room when I was younger, because it is a growth thing, and not always an age thing. But when I was younger, I'd walk into the room like I had something to prove, like I was looking for a fight always. Now I walk into the room and I'm just like, okay, right? I'm still looking for a fight. I'm just not angry. I love telling men they're wrong. Oof, it is my fuel. It's my favorite thing. And the one thing that really helps me is I had this incredible professor in college, and he said 2 things. One, if you're not making people mad, you're not making them think, which is profound and has stayed with me my entire life. And the other thing was, as he ushered us off into life, he said, now it's time for you to hit the speed bag, right? And I say this to a lot of my friends. I say this to clients. I say this to everybody. Sometimes you're on the ropes, right? But a boxing match has a lot of rounds, right? So even if you're on the ropes in the 3rd round, but you win it in the end, nobody's going to care. And nobody's going to remember when you were on the ropes. They're just going to remember how you exited that particular engagement. Let's call it that way. So, that's what I hold on to a lot. I could be on the ropes today, and then I could be on cloud 9 tomorrow. It's always another day you get to start over.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. Vix, so how do you manage? You are so busy, and I know that, in fact, we've been working for a while now together. So how do you manage to have your work-life balance?
Balance is a very loose word. No, I like to call it seasons. So there have been many times where I have not had balance. Entrepreneurs successful people, forget about entrepreneurs, right? Because even if you work for someone else, I call them, and I wrote a book about this years ago, but I call them careerpreneurs, right? You want to do well, you want to be successful, you're thinking about your career as a business, you're a careerpreneur. You're in charge of your own destiny, right? So anyone who is driven has a little bit, I say creatives live on the edge of crazy, and we are creative people. So to me, what that means is, I use my manic periods as growth, right? I use that period where I'm so focused as, all right, how do I leverage this? As I have gotten post-COVID, just like everybody else, right, I am much more intentional about my rest and my downtime. And I protect that even more fiercely than my periods of work. So one way that I keep work-life balance is that I have a cutoff every day. Sometimes I do, fully admit, I miss the cutoff, but I set an alarm for 5:45 p.m. because that is my and literally the alarm on my phone says, you are worthy of rest. To remind myself, listen, future you has to take care of you today. I mean, that's it. No one else is going to take care of you. Whether or not you have a partner, whether or not you have, kids, dog. I mean, Fiona is my little sidekick, my French bulldog, but she needs to be walked and all the things, right? So she still needs my effort, and she requires that I take the time to say, I'm going to be intentional about how I'm going to live, right? My alarm in the morning, my first alarm of the day, says that I'm allowed to invest in my health, because working out is something that often I would put to this. I mean, I have a crazy workout regime, but I would often say all right, well, make it up this day or whatever. So, really keeping the work-life balance is looking at your calendar and being realistic about what you can accomplish and also what actually matters. So another friend of mine said the other day, every heartbeat you have is the last one that you'll one less that you'll experience. And if we all thought about that a lot more, we'd do things so differently, right? So when I get really stressed, I do think about that. My grandmother died suddenly a week before I opened up our new office last year. And, I thought about it. I was like, I spent the last conversation with her sitting at my desk, talking to her about all the things, right? But I was at my desk on a Saturday morning. So this year, I'm being a little bit more intentional about like not working on the weekends and, doing that. But if creativity strikes you, sometimes you got to, jump into it. The other part of how I really manage work-life balance is I read this book years ago, and I try to read it every so often. It's called 168 Hours by Laura Vanderkam, and I'll get you the links for the show notes. And it talks about the 1 hour blocks that you have in a week. So when you look at your calendar that way, you're kind of like, wait, okay, I got to sleep. I got to shower every so often. I got to eat. I got to cook, right? I also am very much masculine, I will say, in how I delegate. So to me, I get my groceries delivered. I do meal prep, right? I look at what does it cost me? What is my hourly rate, right, for doing this? How much can I earn an hour? And that's something that I started doing when I was still side hustling, because I used to take an Uber. Uber was like super cheap back then on the 2nd Avenue subway line. Very long story for another podcast. But I would take an Uber to work in the Uber, right? Because I could make more money, like 4 times what it cost me to take a car to work than what I was making in that car on my laptop. So you really, and a lot of times you'll be like, well, but I really should be better, right? Like I should take public transportation. Run the numbers. Maybe you shouldn't. So there you go. And men do that. Women don't do that. Women are like, oh, I should just be better. Like I do that to myself all the time. I should just be better. No, give yourself the help you need. So that's how I manage work-life balance.
Thank you, Vix.
You're welcome.
You are such of an inspired woman to all of us, right? You share your experience. I know more things about you that you haven't shared here. And no matter with those roadblocks, you still continue yourself to be strong, to inspire those other women out there, to inspire the people that follow you, to inspire your team. Then how do you maintain yourself inspired?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for that. Because I appreciate that, right? Like all I try to do is make space, right? I'm loud and I am really good at taking other people's heat, right? It doesn't mean that I don't go cry in the bathroom, right? I'm still human. But I can deflect it a lot more than most. I used to take criticism so personally. Now I'm just like, it's fine. And then sometimes I still cry, but like I'm human. So I don't set out to inspire people, right? I just feel like I got you because nobody ever had me. So how could you not want to have somebody else's back, right? There's a lot of people who inspire me. Brene Brown is one of them. I survived a physically abusive relationship while I was building my business with an ex-boyfriend. And, for me, a lot of that was about who am I as a person, like independent of my profession. Because for so long, my whole career from when I was 17 years old, it was, what can you do for us? What can you create for us? And creative people give away a little bit of their soul every single time they make something. They may not admit it, but a little piece of you goes with it. It's yours, right? It's this gift that you give to the world. So you have to find ways to kind of recap that or recoup it, really. And Brene Brown talks a lot about, she's a shame researcher and vulnerability. And she talks about being vulnerable and how to do that as a leader. And in the last year, I've read more leadership books than you could, than Carter has liver pills, as my grandmother would say. And Brene is somebody who constantly inspires me because she's a mom, but she's like real. And not in a way that makes you feel bad, right? She understands that vulnerability is a tool. It's not a manipulation tool. So she's inspiring to me. I also am infinitely inspired by founders. So Adam Grant, I actually have a tattoo here that says, "Great spirits have always encountered opposition from mediocre minds." And it's an Einstein quote. And it was in the book that Adam Grant wrote about founder brain called Originals. And in the book, he talks about the Warby Parker founders and all these founders and like how our brains work and why we think differently about stuff. So people are endlessly fascinating to me and how to get them to move and do things. I'm also super inspired, by women in my life. My mother is an incredible businesswoman. My mother's an attorney. I grew up under her desk, as I like to say. And she's always inspiring to me because she's a guardianship attorney, and she has always looked out for people who couldn't look out for themselves, a voice to the voiceless, right? That is what I have always aspired to be, but not in a way that I'm speaking for other people, more so in that like I'm allowing their voice to be amplified. So that's something that she taught me. And it's inspiring. I think that's like it was a very long answer. Apologies.
No, it was a very good answer. That's
talk about my mom. Otherwise, I would have got some heat,
It's all about what inspires you and how we can have our audience be inspired by you and the things that you do. And one thing that you mentioned is, you just do things naturally. And the best thing and unique thing that every human being has is when you can inspire others without really meaning it. And I can say the first day that I met you, I was inspired by you. I said, oh my God, I love Vix. So, and since then we've been having this lovely relationship where she's been helping us with the Women of Commerce, and then now with our mentee program that the Women of Commerce is launching. Vix, so what takeaways would you like to give to our audience today?
Well, there's so many. I'll do 3 so that we could keep it a little shorter. So one I will say is be yourself. Like, I know it sounds so Instagram quotey, right? But be who you are. Like, you're awesome. Really, you're a completely awesome human. So be who you are, be human. The other takeaway is anyone can be a business owner. Anyone can get the resources that they need to build a business. And there are resources. That is the biggest takeaway that I want women to know, because I thought I just had to make all the money in order to do what I want, right? Meanwhile, men are out there getting SBA loans and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I need to be in that room. So go on Twitter, read things. I'm learning more about mergers and acquisitions and the way men buy companies these days than ever before. I had a conversation with someone, and this is a good takeaway, where he had just sold his company, and I was like, well, how do you value your company? Like, who do you go to for valuation? He's like, you say how much it's worth. I'm like, okay. I thought there was a formula. So the girl who cannot do math has done quite well, right, with math. So there are resources. Anyone can be an entrepreneur. Anyone can start something, a movement, whether it makes you money or not. And then the third piece is you as a human matter. So, and that's a little bit different from being yourself, because a lot of times we think about our profession, I am a lawyer, a mom, right? All our titles, but you, the person, like when I talk about myself, it's me, Victoria, right? Vix is a persona. It's what I built. It became who I am. But before I was comfortable enough personally to step into that, I just built it. So, you though, your core still has to be connected to your values. And that's another thing from Brene. Like Brene's book, Dare to Lead, talks about how as a human being, you have values. They're your professional values and they're your personal values. But you can only have 2, because otherwise, if everything matters, nothing matters. So I have been doing the work to get my 6 down to 2. The company may still have 6 because we're Agency 6B. It's like a whole branding thing. Love Brene, but still going to do it my way. But personally, I want to highlight that. So the takeaway is you at your core being authentic, and that's a word that's way overused, but being that to yourself will allow you to have the true abundance and success that you want. I think those are pretty good takeaways.
Yes, I think I agree with you 100%, Vix.
Thank you.
So I would like to end this conversation today by saying thank you so much for being here with us, Victoria.
Thank you.
So now we know that Vix is Victoria, which in Spanish, Victoria in English just means victory. Mm-hmm. So it actually goes very well with your name and what you do.
Thank you.
And I would love to invite our audience to follow us on our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Also follow the Women of Commerce, which is part or kind of the brain behind Inspire Her Podcast. So please follow us. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for listening to us, and have an awesome rest of the day.
you.